my god, this is the first ever sort of podcasty, webcasty, news type show, which I might never do again. It depends if anyone actually listens to it. I'm going to assume nobody is listening to me right now, and I'm just sitting in a room talking to myself. That's what I'm going off. But there's going to be no visual content. There's going to be some videos playing in the background. Some, I don't know what yet, but possibly like an Autodesk show reel. But the whole point of this is that it's a news thing. You can minimize me. It's just me spouting my opinions, talking absolute bullcrap, and you can minimize me and get cracking on with your work. That's it. You know the deal before you start watching it. Look at the bottom of the video. If you think, I can't be asked to listen to them for that long, just tootle off. No obligation. You don't have to stick around. So the whole point of these, if I ever do another one, is when something happens and I think, I get a lot of things on my mind and I need to get them out there. And this has been on my mind for a few days. And I just need to spit it out because something happened, which I just thought that's ridiculous. Autodesk, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? And this is actually the second time I've recorded it because I did it yesterday. I recorded this yesterday, and I think I was a bit harsh on the guy that I heard, and I'll play in a bit. And I thought, no, I was a bit harsh on him. I'll redo it, and I'll be a little bit easier on him. That might change once I get into the flow again, but we'll see how it goes. So the topics of this show, if it's even a show, if that's not too pretentious, is Fusion 360, collaboration, and cloud viewing. I just want to give out some thoughts on all that stuff because there's a lot of things going on at the moment, and I don't know. I just want to talk about them. I might be wrong. I might be right. It is all opinions. That's it. I am not Jeremy Clarkson. I do not mistake my own opinions for being fact. So, Fusion 360. There was something happened. Autodesk or they're soon, as of today, they're about to release an update in the next couple of weeks, which bringing you a few new enhancements to Fusion. One of them being a live meeting functionality. It's sort of like a live meeting session within Fusion 360, which allows. So if you're working on Fusion 360 and you want to share your data with someone else, you want someone else to look at what you're doing. So you're not really sharing data, you're not sending them files. So you're essentially allowing them to connect into your session to look at what you're doing. They're bringing that into Fusion 360, and I was watching a podcast about this, or a webcast from an American US-based CAD supplier, and a guy on that webcast said something which was quite, from my point of view, quite controversial, and I thought, whoa, what are you saying, man? And then I thought, right, that's what spawned this. So I want to talk about that, and I think what I'll also do is just give out some information as well on what all this stuff is, just because you might not know what it is. You might live in a little bubble in your little shed, and you might just do your own thing, and you might not know what's going on out there. So I'll give you a bit of an overview as to what stuff is. So starting off with Fusion 360, because that is kind of the topic of this show. And I haven't done a lot of Fusion 360 stuff on the TFI channel. And the reason for that is I am not an expert in it. Frankly, I'm not an expert in Fusion 360. I have had quite a few people put some comments on the videos that I've done saying, can you do stuff on Fusion 360? And the answer is yes, I probably could. But I don't think at the moment I've got a lot of credibility with Fusion 360. I can't present a video on Fusion 360 to the level that I can do on Inventor because it's not my bag. I don't know it inside and out like I do Inventor. So I'm trying. I haven't played around with it that much. And frankly, it's because I don't like it. If I'm honest, I don't think it's a very good bit of kit. And I'm going to get onto that. So what is Fusion 360? Well, I'll give you a bit of a history. I've got no fact sheets in front of me. I've got no reference material in front of me. This is just all off memory because I've watched Fusion 360 grow over the years. And I guess that's where we should start. Fusion 360, as of today, is a cloud-based 3D modeling package from Autodesk. And it's cheap. It's cheap as in it's $40 US a month cheap. Compare that to an Inventor license, which is like, I mean, I don't know what it is in US dollarinos, but in the UK, it's like £5,000 or £6,000 to buy one of these licenses. And then the alternative is like $40 a month for a Fusion 360 license. So it's a bit of a strange one, Fusion 360. But anyway, it's a cloud-based 3D modeling application. And you might think, all right, fair enough. What's the problem? Well, Fusion started its life a long time ago. It started off as an experiment by Autodesk, and it was on Autodesk Labs, which I think still exists. It's like an Area 51 type website. It was super secret. It's all super secret stuff. It's all in development. Don't shh. NDAs and shh. It's all super secret, except anyone can get at it. You can just Google Autodesk Labs and you can go and look at it. It's preview technology. It's stuff they're messing about with, and they want people to download and play around with just to like, it's like a conceptual type thing. This is what we're playing around with. Go and have a play with it and see what you think type thing. So Fusion started off on that a long time ago. We're talking, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And then in around about 2009, I think it was, maybe 2010, they did this weird thing where they put Fusion into Inventor. It appeared as a little button on the Inventor ribbon bar. And what you would do is you would press this button, this Fusion button in Inventor, and it would launch Fusion as a separate program. Not cloud-based, it was all on your computer. And Fusion would open up, and then it allowed you to do things which you couldn't do in Inventor. Things like the T-spline stuff, clay models. Here's a lump of mass, push it, pull it around, grab the face of it, move it around, morph it into different shapes, which Inventor couldn't do at the time. And then you'd do all that in Fusion, and then you'd hit this import back into Inventor button. Fusion would close down, and then this lump of mass that you've made in Fusion would go back into Inventor, and it would appear in your browser as this uneditable, solid lump of stuff. And you'd be left thinking, right, what now? What do I do next? The answer was you couldn't really do much with it at all. It was an experiment for about a year. It lasted about a year or two, and that was it. And it was quickly ditched, because it was rubbish. I mean, it was absolute garbage. But it was the start of what we now have in Inventor and what we now know as to be freeform modeling. So Inventor can now do natively what you would have previously pushed out into this separate Fusion program. So Fusion sort of did its thing for a year or two back in 2009. I think it was Inventor 2010 or 2009. But then the Inventor product version, so like 2009, 2010 is like, the previous year. So if it's Inventor 2010, it's the year 2009, isn't it? So yeah, it kind of disappeared, and then it went off the radar for a few years, and then it was like, what happened to that Fusion thing? Oh yeah, I don't know what happened. And then Fusion 360 just emerged out of nowhere, and it became a thing. So that's the origins of Fusion, and it then surfaced as this, then the start of the cloud era. Fusion 360 emerged, and that became a thing, which was fine, and that gets me on to the state of things today. So at the start of this rambling session, I said I just don't like Fusion 360. I don't think it's very good. Well, I think I probably need to explain myself there, because there's probably quite a lot of people watching, or maybe there's not. I don't know, but there might be. If somebody who likes Fusion is watching this or listening to this, might think, well, what's wrong with it? It's absolutely fine. It is absolutely fine, but I'm confused by it. I am hugely confused by it, because I just don't think it has a place. And what I mean by that is, right, I probably do need to explain that. When Fusion 360 was initially its first concept came out, it could do the freeform stuff. You could do bike frames, and you could do fancy curved surfaces and bizarre consumer product type shapes, which Inventor couldn't do. So it allowed you to do all these nice surface models, which Inventor couldn't do. And it was like, well, if you need to do that, you'd use Fusion for it. Fine. But then Fusion 360 over the years started to introduce new features. The next year it could do FEA, and then it could do sheet metal, and then it could do CAM, and we're now at a point today where Fusion, I'm just looking at its features list. The feature list for Fusion: freeform modeling and sculpting, solid modeling, parametric modeling. Parametric modeling was a thing that it couldn't do. It wasn't a history-based bit of kit. That was Inventor. If you want parametric modeling, go to Inventor. But no, Fusion can now do parametric modeling, mesh modeling, simulation and testing, data translation, assembly modeling, joints and motion studies, 2 and 2.5 axis machining, 3D printing utility, drawings, 3-axis machining, distributed design, synchronous design reviews, track, comment and share, version management. You look at the feature list and you're like, hold the phone. This is now starting to step on Inventor's toes. It really is. There is now, if you're a newcomer, if you're straight out of school, and you're looking at what 3D modeling package you should learn, you are going to be genuinely confused with whether you should look at Inventor or Fusion 360. And you start to think to yourself, the boundaries and the lines are being blurred now. Which do you use? And if you're a big company, if you're an engineering company, and you're spending, I don't know, the annual subscription maintenance for an Inventor license is what, £1,200? I don't know, $1,500 or something like that. And Fusion 360 is what, maybe $300 a year, $400 a year? And you're hearing that Fusion can do these things that Inventor can do. You're going to start asking questions as to whether or not you should be using Fusion instead of Inventor. Because the market material on Autodesk's website isn't going to tell you the downsides of Fusion. It's not going to say, yeah, well, Fusion can't do this and it can't do that and Inventor's better for this and better for that. No, it's going to big up Fusion and you're going to start asking questions about which product you should be using. So I'm not sure it has a place and it knows what it's trying to be. And I can imagine internally within Autodesk, like the Inventor guys are kind of, the people who work on the Inventor team, they're like looking over at the Fusion office. Like, if just imagine they were in the next room, they're kind of looking over at them and sort of shouting through the window and going, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You weren't meant to let it get this far. You weren't meant to do. It wasn't never meant to do parametric modeling. What are you doing?" You can just imagine them doing that because now you've got these two. It's like you've got two competing products from the same company. It's almost as if, imagine Apple. They do the iPhone. Imagine if they had, they've got the iPhone as it was today, and a few years ago they experimented with another phone, and it was called the Galaxy. And it started off as just a phone. It was just a very basic phone. It could do a few things that the iPhone couldn't do. It had like a fingerprint scanner. And then all of a sudden, this team, Apple decided to beef up the team working on that phone. And all of a sudden, over the years, it suddenly got a touch screen, then it got an accelerometer, it got color screen, it got its own Android operating system, and before you know it, you've got the same company pushing out the iPhone and the Galaxy phone from the same company. Two competing products from the same company, and that's how I honestly, I might be wrong, but that's how I see Fusion 360 and Inventor, and it's not stopping either. It's just this behemoth of a bloody beast, which is just growing and growing and growing, and it's doing more and more things that it just shouldn't ever have done. Fusion 360 just shouldn't do joints and motion studies. I'm sorry, it shouldn't. It shouldn't be doing it. That's Inventor. If you're a mechanical designer or a mechanical engineer, you should be using Inventor. If you're an architect, you should be using Revit. If you're an electrical engineer, you use AutoCAD Electrical. Where's Fusion 360 fit into all of this? I don't know. It's bizarre. It's so weird. I just don't know what it's there for. But if you look at the marketing blurb, at what Fusion 360 is aimed for, let's have a look at the overview of it. Now, I did have that saved. It's for students, enthusiasts, hobbyists, and startups. That's who they're marketing it for. Students, though? Students who are going to move on into working in the workplace, into engineering companies, who you should be using Inventor. It's so confusing. I mean, there might be method behind the methodology and the marketing that they're putting out there, but saying that Fusion 360 is for students, yeah, students can afford Fusion 360 a lot more than they can afford Inventor, but not if you've got an educational license. Is free. If you're a student, you can get any software for free from Autodesk. So why is Fusion 360 for students? I don't know. It's so confusing. I just don't know what they're doing with it. It's such a bizarre product. So the downsides of Fusion that I've seen so far is that it is cloud-based. So everything that you work on is saved in the cloud. Now, that does have its advantages. If you're working on a laptop, you can flip open Fusion 360, you can do some work, then you can go home, and then you can open up 360 on your desktop computer, and then your files are all there. But you could do the same thing on Inventor. You could have a Dropbox account. You could save your files into Dropbox, go home to a different PC, and then there's your files in Dropbox. There's always more than one way of doing something. So the cloud-based benefits that Fusion sells itself on aren't necessarily revolutionary. So I don't know what that's all about. The modeling kernel, I guess, that the engine that Fusion 360 runs on is now no longer unique, really, because Inventor can do the freeform stuff as well. So all of the fancy push pull faces and grabbing edges and pulling points and stuff, Inventor can do all that now as well. So I just don't know where it fits in to life. What's it there for? It's this weird sort of runt of the family that you're just looking at it and going, why do you exist? So yeah, so that's what Fusion is. I mean, it's a thing. It's there. It's not going away anytime soon, and who knows what the future brings for it. Personally, I can't really give any more comment on it because I haven't used it in anger to any massive extent. It's not my thing. I've got no reason to use it. I don't think it's worth my time going onto it. Not when I'm already at a point I am with Inventor, and it's probably the same for yourself, whoever's listening to this. If you're quite proficient on Inventor, do you have any reason to then spend your own time looking at what Fusion can offer? I don't think so. Unless Autodesk have got plans of eventually phasing Inventor out and replacing it with Fusion. That would be a thing. I mean, that could happen. I've had no indication that that's going to happen, but it could be. I mean, who knows? But at the moment, Fusion's got some... I don't know if they're well publicised downsides to it and some disadvantages, but I've heard that it's not so good handling large data sets. That's a thing. It's cloud-based. Everything's handled in the cloud. And I think its design... I think the engine for Fusion started off as just being for small consumer products. So if you're working on large industrial machinery, Fusion 360 is just not for you. I don't think it's designed to handle data of that size. And if you do go to the Fusion 360 website on Autodesk, on the Autodesk website, and you look at the videos that they play in the background for Fusion 360, it's all small scale stuff. Everything's very small scale. So again, that differentiation hasn't really been made. Anyway, so why am I doing all this? Right, well, I was watching a Fusion 360 webcast from a CAD supplier, and it was purely for my own curiosity. I was just wanting to see what people think of it, what they're selling it on, what they're marketing it on. And one of the guys on this webcast said something quite controversial, and what I'm going to do now is just play it for you. I'm not going to name the video, I'm not going to link the video because I copyright and all that, YouTube copyright, and I don't want anyone going over there and bashing on them. But it's on YouTube, so it's not like it's there's no secrecy behind it. It's published out to the world. It's a public video. But the guy so there's two people in this video. There was the guy from the CAD supplier who's doing the webcast, and he must have a guest, and I'm assuming. I haven't listened to the video in full, so I haven't, got this confirmed. But I'm assuming the guy who chips in is from Autodesk, and he works on the Fusion 360 team because he's referring to Fusion 360 as we're doing this, we're introducing updates, and we're doing bits and pieces. And this is the guy, and this is him chipping in to the webcast, and this is what he says.
Hey Jorge, one thing I'd also mention there, in an update that we do here in a couple weeks, we're going to allow from Fusion 360, if you're making edits, you can invite somebody to a live session so they can see all the things that you're doing through a web browser. Yeah. So there's a lot of work being done for collaboration. So I can sit down at a design review. We may have people dispersed across different locations, and they can actually sit down and see all of that come together.
Oh, cool.
So even if you're using Inventor,
I'm sorry, what?
It's great to be able to bring in that model into Fusion and use that for, use Fusion for some of your design review sessions.
Whoa. So that's what I heard yesterday, and well, actually it wasn't yesterday, it was a few days ago. And that's what I've been thinking about a lot. I've been mulling over this, and as I said at the start of this podcasty type thing, I've already recorded this, and I was really harsh on this guy. And in fairness, I thought, no, I'm going to have to redo this because I don't think he deserves any kind of, huge backlash and sort of a verbal lashing. I don't think it deserves that. But what this guy says is it would be great if you could bring across your Inventor models into Fusion 360 to use them for a live meeting. That's what he says. And there's all kinds of wrong with that. That is just such a bad message to put out there. And I'm going obviously I need to explain why. So first of all, what is a live meeting? What is he talking about? Well, a live meeting is it's cloud viewing, right? It's digital online collaboration, isn't it? It's something which a lot of companies are striving towards at the moment. They want to. There is no, and what I'm trying to get at is there is no single go-to source for online cloud viewing. You know, with PDFs, for example, PDF is the go-to digital file type for sharing information. If you want to send a drawing out to somebody, you PDF it. As much as Autodesk have tried to sell their DWF format and push that and force that onto people, PDF has been the global sort of king of the hill, you know, the king of the castle. It's PDF. Where's my PDF? Send it in a PDF. Print a PDF. There is no PDF for cloud viewing at the moment. So there's a lot of companies trying to be that entity, that single go-to entity. And it just hasn't happened yet. Cloud viewing it's a thing which it's happening right now, right? It's not like it's still in development. It is a thing. It exists. If you want to do it, you can do it. There's a number of different ways of doing it. You can go on Skype, for example. You can create a Skype group call, turn on video, and then everybody's, you know, talking to each other with video. There's the likes of GoToMeeting from, I think it's from Citrix, and you can share a screen so that you can have a host. He can share his screen, and then you can invite multiple participants to look at your screen, and then you can share data that way. There's the Autodesk A360 viewer, which works a little bit differently. You don't share a screen. You upload files to a cloud server, and multiple people connect into a session, and you're all looking at the same model. There's a lot of different ways of achieving this cloud viewing scenario, but nobody's really become the go-to company for it. And also, if you go to a lot of engineering companies, you'll find a lot of them aren't doing it yet. A lot of them are, but I would say the majority, and I've got no factual evidence, I've got no statistics on this, but I would say most of them aren't. And I've asked around, in a couple of the previous companies I've been into, I've asked people about this, and I've said, why don't you use this? I've tried to sell, for example, the A360 viewer to them. And the first thing that people say is it needs to, it needs to be efficient. It needs to be reliable. If it in any way causes any kind of delay or inconvenience, it'll be immediately disregarded. And that is true, isn't it? It's true. Because if you think about it, kind of going off topic here, but hey, it's my show. I can do what I want. If you think about it, over the last 20 or 30 years, right, since AutoCAD existed, since like the early 80s, there's been, again, I've got no statistics, but there's been hundreds of thousands of engineering projects which have been conceived, pushed through to completion, and they've had some form of CAD worked on those projects over the last 20 or 30 years. And there, you can say with a fair amount of certainty that at some point, in most, if not all of those projects, two people in different places will have got together to discuss a certain aspect of the project, and they've done it. So these two people have met, they've talked about a problem, and they've come to a solution without the need for cloud viewing. What I'm getting at is that cloud viewing isn't revolutionary. It doesn't give these people something which they couldn't do before. The method that they've done before and they've used before, and they're probably still using today, is they will email each other a PDF, or they would, in the very olden days, they'll probably mail each other a paper drawing, and they'd have that PDF open on two different computers on different sides of the world or the country. They'd then pick up the phone, and then they talk to each other about the file that they both have. Now, there's obvious downsides to that. For example, if it's a paper drawing, I could mail somebody a paper drawing, and then in the time that it takes for that paper drawing to get to the participant, or the recipient, sorry, the drawing could have changed. There could have been a design change in that time, so that person is now looking at an old copy. And the same goes for a PDF. If I email someone a PDF, the design could change in that time that they've received it, and I'd have to send them a new one. There's communication issues with that. If you've got two people on different sides of the world looking at two different screens and they're talking about the same drawing, you've got a communication issue. Look at the square on that drawing whereabouts. Oh, it's that plate just on view 2. It's in square B6. It's over there. It's got a dimension. But I think I know what you mean. Is it that one there? No, is it not? Is it square with a little 5mm dimension on it? No, it's not that one. It's one. You know what I mean? There's a communication issue there. So cloud viewing, which allows two people to look at the same screen or the same session and see the same cursor and see the same objects, it's hugely convenient. It's hugely convenient. It fixes that communication problem. But it's not revolutionary in that it didn't allow people to do something that they couldn't have done before. Yeah, it's all arguable. Two people before couldn't look at the same thing, so that's revolutionary. They're looking at the same thing. Yeah, but the solution that the whole purpose of why they're having the meeting could still have been achieved without cloud viewing. They're having the same meeting. They're using different tools which are more convenient. So it's not. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. So in order for cloud viewing to become a thing and to become hugely popular and become the norm, it needs to be absolutely bang on the money reliable. And at the moment, I don't think it is because of the prep work that's needed to get the cloud viewing session active. So, for example, like GoToMeeting, right? GoToMeeting has been around for years. Probably, I assume most people have used GoToMeeting in the past. I mean, hell, Autodesk themselves use GoToMeeting for like support calls. You, as a host, you load up GoToMeeting, you create a meeting, and you get a meeting number. You've then got to send out email invites to people that you want on your meeting. Those people then schedule that meeting in their calendar, and when it comes to the meeting time, they've got to then click a link, download an applet from GoToMeeting, which is a little executable file, which in some companies, and in fact a lot of companies, gets blocked. So a lot of people have got to fart on trying to get firewalls open so they can download this applet. They download the applet, which again, on slow connections can take ages to download. They've got to then install this applet, load up the bloody session. They're then going to find the meeting number. They've got to then ring the phone number to join the conference call, punch in a hashtag code. And by that point, there's a lot of people are just like, I can't be arsed with this. This is just a lot of hassle. So it can depend on the person. If the person just doesn't like the hassle, they can just disregard this sort of thing immediately. And a lot of people just have this bad first experience with it, and then they just disregard it from then on. So again, like the A360 viewer from Autodesk, which is relatively new, what that requires of you is you've got to say an Inventor assembly. So you've got an assembly with say 100 parts in there. You have to upload that assembly in 100 parts to the Autodesk cloud service, and your assembly isn't going to display properly unless you've got those 100 parts with it. So once you've uploaded all those parts, you've got to then hope that the A360 viewer assembles your model correctly in the cloud. Once it's done that, it can take quite a while for it to do that as well. It depends on your upload speed. Upload speeds tend to be a lot slower than download speeds. So you've got to upload all those models. It's got to then process it. It's then going to create the session. Breathe. You've then got to invite people to the session. They've got to then open up their session, get they've got to make sure their browser's compatible, which it should be. If it's not, then they've got to find a different browser. You've got to then talk to them about that. And it's just hassle. It's just hassle. So nobody yet has found that absolute sweet spot where it just works. Because a lot of engineers, when it comes to a design review session and they need to meet with somebody else, I wouldn't say it's an inconvenience to them, but it's just another meeting in the day. They're doing their work, they're on their PCs, they're answering calls, they're writing out reports, typing out emails, and they've got a meeting in 10 minutes. They just want to drop tools and go to the meeting and pick up the phone and do it. If that meeting then requires them to send out emails and people to accept links and download applets and upload files and convert files and stuff, they're just going to go sod it, the hell with it. It's too much hassle because like I said earlier, it's not all that revolutionary. It's not giving them a big enough benefit to justify the inconveniences that it's going to cause them to set up the meeting. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So in order for cloud viewing to be really revolutionary and to be adopted like mass market, wide scale, it needs to fix those problems. We're not quite there yet, I don't think. So with Fusion 360, they've implemented this live viewer. So getting back on track, why am I kicking off at this? I'm not really kicking off at the guy. Like I said, I don't want to beat on him. He's just towing the company line and all that sort of stuff. But he's his words. Let's go back. Let's listen again because I've waffled on for quite a bit. Let's rewind back.
From Fusion 360, if you're making edits, you can invite somebody to a live session so they can see all the things that you're doing through.
Right, let's just pause it there. So what he's saying there is Fusion 360 has now, or it's going to very quickly have a live meeting session built into it. So if you're working on 360, you're doing things in 360, you can then hit a button, start a meeting, and invite people from around the world to look at what you're doing, which is absolutely fine. That is great. That is absolutely fine. If you're working natively in Fusion 360 and you want someone else to look at what you're doing, nothing wrong with that. That is convenient because there's no sending files around. You're working natively on the files that you're already working on, and you're inviting people to see the files you're already working on. So there are benefits to that.
A web browser. So there's a lot of work being done for collaboration. So I can sit down at a design review. We may have people dispersed across different locations, and they can actually sit down and see all of that come together. So even if you're using...
Just going to stop there though, but. Although this is really handy, it makes sense to have it there. It isn't revolutionary because, like I said before, the likes of GoToMeeting can do exactly what this is going to enable you to do. It's inviting people from around the world. He says if you've got design teams in China or in America, you can invite those guys to see your session. We could already do that. GoToMeeting would have allowed you to already do that. So this isn't revolutionary.
Inventor, it's great to be able to bring in that model into Fusion and use that for, use Fusion for some of your design review sessions.
And that's where he goes wrong. So this is where I'm going to start to destroy his statement. It's great if you've got Inventor to be able to bring those models into Fusion 360 to do a design review session. So he's saying this new great functionality from Fusion 360, which allows you to do design review sessions, you can then use the same technology to bring a model in from Inventor, import that into Fusion, and then use the Fusion 360 live session to broadcast that out to people around the world. Absolutely not. No. That is so wrong. It's so... Oh my god, I don't even know where... Right. Why would you just never do this? Well, firstly, Autodesk don't have again, I'm trying to be careful how I word this without sounding like being a drama queen. Autodesk software hasn't had a track record of being flawless with data conversion. Not in all cases, but in some cases, when you take a model from Inventor and you push that into another Autodesk product, it doesn't always come out the other end looking perfect. If you've got a very small part, like a consumer product or a widget, a ball bearing, something really small, a couple of parts, there's not much that can go wrong. But if you're working on an industrial machinery, fabrication, something that's got a lot of constraints in there, a lot of content center parts, nuts, bolts, washers, pins, rivets, that sort of thing. You've got a lot of parts in there. When you push that model into another product, there is a lot that can go wrong. Constraints can fail. Materials and textures can go wrong, so it doesn't come out the other end looking like it's supposed to. The biggest problem is the constraint conversion just does fail quite a lot. And a good example is like Showcase. When you push big Inventor models across into Showcase, the constraints can fail. Not all the time, but they can fail, which results in a model that you open up with bits and pieces just floating in midair. That's not good. That ends up with you having to fix things at the other end. Now, if you're working on Showcase and you're doing this for a render, you're kind of prepared to do that because you couldn't. In Showcase, it allows you to create renders that you're otherwise not really able to do in Inventor, so it's worth the time to fix that model. But the reason why this guy's statement is so bullshit is Fusion 360's live session isn't revolutionary. It's not allowing you to do things that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to do. So it's absolutely not worth the hassle to push a model from Inventor into a product that's not meant to handle that model, to then do something that you're not really getting that much of a benefit from. There is no track record either. There is no history with Fusion handling Inventor data. And the last time I looked at Fusion, which was yesterday, it doesn't even open bloody Inventor models natively. You've got to convert your Inventor model into a step file, then open that step file in Fusion 360. Who's going to do that? Who's going to do that? Who is going to open... For a start, if you want to do a design review session, The whole point of a design review session is to present a model or a design to either a client or another engineering department in another part of the world. That's what design review sessions are. You want your model to look as good as possible. You're not going to convert that model into a foreign file or a foreign program for it to potentially not look right for a design review session. You're just not going to do that. You'd be absolutely crackers to do it. It would be such a cock in the ass to go, all right, we're going to present this Inventor model to a client, so convert it into a step file, potential problems there. Open it up into Fusion 360, which isn't really meant to handle large data. Convert the step into a Fusion format, potential problems there. Fix it, because it isn't going to import perfectly. Pretty much almost guarantee that. And then spend quite some time fixing it. And who knows what the conversion times are either. I mean, again, a couple of parts, a ball bearing, something really small. It's not going to take too long to import, but anything large that's got constraints and loads of textures and loads of materials and loads of points, and it's going to take quite a while to import it. Nobody's going to have time to do that. Nobody's going to want to do that either. I think this is like, it's the old Jurassic Park thing, isn't it? You know, your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think about if they should. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? Just because you can do it, don't advertise this as being a benefit. It's not. It's not. It absolutely isn't. Just because you can do it, don't tell people that they should and that it's a good idea, because it really isn't. This is not a message that should be put out there, you know. Yeah, you could, if somebody absolutely needed to push an Inventor model into Fusion 360 for whatever reason, it would be an obscure reason. Great. Tell them that it can be done by converting the model into a step file and converting it back from a step file into Fusion. There's potential translation issues there. Your model might not look the same, but yes, you can do it. But don't say that it's something that would be great. Like this should be your workflow, because it really shouldn't. God damn it, man. Really? So that's kind of that's the message that spawned this newscast, and I just thought I should put it out there that it's not really, this isn't a good idea at all. If you want to do a design review session, yeah, I mean, I'm kicking off about converting models into other formats and the issues that come along with it, and then at the start of this I was saying PDFs, but PDF isn't the native format, but if you save a drawing into a PDF, it's almost an industry standard now. PDFs are as reliable as it gets. It isn't a native Autodesk format, but it is bloody reliable. You can't say the same for exporting an Inventor model to a step file and a step file into Fusion 360. You can't say that that's industry standard, because it isn't. And you can't say it's going to work perfect, because it probably won't. It might do, but who's to say it will? So, oh my God, I don't know. I just thought that this was just crackers. I just thought it was absolutely crackers. So, in order for cloud viewing, I mean, what is cloud view? I mean, has anybody stopped and thought? I'm talking to everybody here about cloud view, and you might be going, what is cloud view? The whole point of the cloud is, you'll have heard of it. If you work on a computer, you can't have escaped the term cloud. It's a fancy, decorative, innocent term for something being on the internet. There's been a shift from saying put your files on the internet to putting them in the cloud, because the cloud sounds like, oh, it's in the cloud, it's high above the ground in the cloud, criminals and thieves can't get at it because it's in the cloud, they can't reach, it's in the fluffy, crystal clear, pure, innocent, lovely cloud. It's not, it's a server, it's a flipping server bank in like Arizona. I can create, hell, god damn it, I could create a TFI cloud server, right? I could call it a cloud server, but in reality what it is a PC next to my foot under my desk, and I could say put your files on the TFI cloud server, but in essence they're on a PC next to my foot under this desk right here. That's what a cloud server is. And like, it's not just cloud storage. I mean, cloud, you can have cloud server banks that do processing, so you can render stuff in the cloud. They're not in the sky, they're just, it's still a server bank somewhere in the USA with 1 million processors churning away work. So the cloud just means the internet. So when you talk about cloud viewers, you're talking about putting stuff into the cloud. And another reason why people haven't shifted across to this and it hasn't been adopted like hugely widely is there's obvious data security issues with stuff being in the cloud. We've had, I wouldn't say they're recent now, but we've had fairly recent. Yeah, there've been, quite widely publicized issues with the likes of Sony and Apple, people being hacked. These huge companies, which you'd think are just impenetrable, have been hacked. Their cloud servers have been hacked, and people's data has been stolen. And people have obviously made the link, well, if Sony and Apple can get hacked, who's to say Autodesk can't get hacked? Because obviously Autodesk aren't as big as Apple, nowhere near. And if Apple can get hacked, Autodesk can get hacked. And I don't want my data being hacked. And Autodesk say, and possibly rightly so, who wants your data? As insulting as it arguably is, it is insulting. And I'm sorry, it is very demeaning and patronizing. But if you're a company that make little ball bearings, or you make hydraulic hoses for, a JCB or a bulldozer or something like that, it might be that it is the most important data in the world to you and your company, but nobody else wants it. What's a thief going to do with a hydraulic hose blueprint? So that's kind of what these other companies say is, yeah, you want your data secure, that's fine, but nobody's going to be out to get it unless you're working on like high-grade military equipment. Nobody's going to be actively trying to steal your stuff unless you're working on something which is, it's a new patent or it's, I don't know, some new invention which is potentially going to change the world. Then granted, but I know. I'm saying stuff which is all arguable, and every bit of information is valuable and all that sort of stuff. But it's not the same as somebody's credit card. It's not the same as somebody's identity. It's not as desirable as that. But that's not to say that should, cloud servers should be less secure if it's not that data. It's not nobody. I'm not definitely not saying that, but. I don't know where I'm going with that actually, but I'm going to stop there. So that's pretty much it for the news. I have no idea how long this is. It's probably far too long. If you made it to the end, congratulations. I don't know how I've talked for this long. My jaw genuinely hurts, and I'm going to stop here. But thank you very much for listening. And if you've got any questions or comments, put them in the videos, just comments bit down below, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. If you want to listen to me ramble on in more news videos, let me know. If people do like these sort of news videos and me spitting out my opinions on stuff, let me know and I'll do more of them. If nobody gives a shit, I'll not, because it's not worth my time really. No one's going to listen to them. So thank you very much. Cheery bye.